At the graduation party, in front of everyone, Brandon Carter handed his Coke to Sophia Miller. Without a second thought, she took it and drank. On the way home, I broke up with her. She frowned. Because I drank Brandon's Coke? I nodded. Caleb, you're being ridiculous. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. Seriously? Fine, she said, her voice sharp. Break up. See if I care. You'll regret this. Sophia was so sure I couldn't live without her that she agreed without a fight. But what she didn't know was this. This time, I was serious. The moment I got home, I logged into the university portal and changed my commitment from Ohio State, where we had planned to go together, to the University of Washington. From now on, we'd be on opposite sides of the country. We would never see each other again. 01 for days after the party. My phone was as silent as a brick. Sophia never reached out. Not a single text, not even an emoji. I'd stare at our message thread, my thumb hovering over the screen before I'd pull it back and let out a bitter laugh. That was her style. She always waited for me to be the one to apologize first. The day our final grades and SAT scores were officially posted, my friend Leo Rodriguez called. He reminded me it was his birthday and that he was having a party at his place, the same house where we'd spent countless weekends. When I pushed open the basement door, the blast of cold air and loud music was disorienting. The room was already packed with a dozen people from our class. My eyes scanned the crowd automatically, and I found her in a corner. Sophia. She was wearing the red sundress I'd bought her, laughing with a few other girls. The colored party lights danced across her face, making her skin look like porcelain. Caleb, over here. Leo waved me over. He handed me a beer, and I clinked my bottle against his before taking a long drink. I had barely sat down when a shadow fell over me. Sophia was standing there, looking down at me with that familiar, slightly impatient smile I knew so well. Caleb, can we talk outside for a sec? The hallway upstairs was dimly lit. The music from the basement bled through the floor, a muffled, thumping beat. Sophia leaned against the wall, twisting a strand of her hair around her finger, a nervous habit she had when she was annoyed. Are you done with this yet? She asked, her tone making me feel like a child throwing a tantrum. It's been 5 days. You should be over it by now. I stared at her lips, coated in cherry red gloss. I remember the drop of brown soda that had clung to the corner of her mouth after she drank from Brandon's Coke. She had wiped it away with the back of her hand, completely oblivious. Like it was nothing. I'm not throwing a tantrum, I said, my voice calmer than I expected. We broke up. It's over. Her smile faltered for a second before snapping back into place. Over a sip of Coke. Caleb, when did you become so controlling? She took a step closer, and the scent of her perfume, a fragrance I used to love, now felt sharp and suffocating. Brandon just handed it to me. We're all friends. What's the big deal? He just handed it to you. I couldn't stop the cold laugh that escaped my lips. He walked around the entire table, past 5 other people, just to hand you his drink. Sophia's brow furrowed. That condescending look was back. Were you watching his every move? I have eyes, I said, clenching my fists. The bite of my nails into my palms kept me grounded. And this wasn't the first time. Last year, at the team picnic, he accidentally drank from your water bottle. At the homecoming game, he accidentally wrapped his arm around your waist. And enough. Sophia cut me off, her voice rising. Caleb, do you hear yourself? You sound like a crazy, jealous ex-boyfriend. 02, she leaned in, lowering her voice. I'm going to ask you one last time. Are we getting back together or not? This is your last chance. Just then, a tall figure blocked the light at the end of the hall. It was Brandon, holding 2 cups, a look of perfect surprise on his face. Oh, sorry. Am I interrupting something? Sophia's expression softened instantly. Brandon, what are you doing up here? You were gone for a while. I was worried you got lost, he said with a smile, his eyes landing on me. Caleb, long time no see. I didn't answer. I just watched him move to stand beside Sophia, their shoulders almost touching. Brandon was a good half-foot taller than her. When he looked down at her, his eyelashes cast a shadow on his cheek. The sight was so natural it was painful. Sophia, I brought you a Sprite. Remember you said singing make your throat dry, Brandon said, handing her the cup. His fingers accidentally brushed against the back of her hand. Sophia took the cup and smiled at him. Then she turned back to me, lifting her chin. See, This is just how normal friends act, she said. Caleb, you're being way too sensitive. Hearing this, Brandon put on a confused face. Did I do something wrong? He asked, looking at me with an innocence that made me sick to my stomach. Caleb, if there's some kind of misunderstanding, we can talk it out. Sophia's been in a really bad mood these past few days because of you. I've been worried about her. Brandon, you don't have to explain anything, Sophia said, patting his arm. She shot me a cold glare. Some people just love to overthink everything. Brandon sighed, looking at me with an expression of pity. Caleb, Sophia talks about you all the time. She says you can be a little insecure, but you're a good guy. He paused, but you can't force feelings if you two really aren't meant to be. Brandon, I cut him off, my voice ice. You know what I admire most about you? Your ability to pretend you're the good guy while you're actively trying to steal someone's girlfriend. Brandon's smile froze. Sophia, however, exploded. Caleb, what the hell are you talking about? I laughed. Then tell me, why is it that every time we have a fight, he's the first person to know about it? Why did the bracelet I bought you for your birthday end up in a picture on his Instagram story? Why? That's enough. Sophia shoved me hard, her chest heaving. Caleb, I see you for who you really are now. You blame everyone else for your own insecurities. It's disgusting. Brandon is 100 times more considerate than you are. At least he doesn't question my every move. Brandon chose that moment to place a steadying hand on Sophia's shoulder. Don't get worked up, he said softly. It's not worth it. He then looked at me, his eyes full of a victor's tolerance. Caleb, maybe you need to cool off. Sophia, let's go back downstairs. Everyone's waiting. Sophia pulled away from me. I didn't even realize I'd grabbed her wrist. She walked away with Brandon without a single look back. Just before they disappeared down the stairs, Brandon glanced over his shoulder at me. A barely perceptible smirk played on his lips, his eyes gleaming with triumph. I stood alone in the empty hallway as a gut-wrenching breakup song started playing downstairs. As I walked out of the party, the hot summer night air hit me, but felt more sobering than the ice-cold AC inside. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. You left. Sophia just told everyone she and Brandon are together. The whole room is going crazy. Did you know about this? 03, I texted back a single yeah, and turned off my phone. The fluorescent lights of 7-Eleven on the corner were blinding. I walked in and grabbed a Coke from the cooler. Twisting the cap off, I chugged it down. The carbonation burned my throat and made my eyes water. So this is what it felt like to be over. It didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Instead, I felt a strange sense of relief. I looked up at the night sky, at the few faint stars scattered across the darkness. The University of Washington, 1,400 miles away from here. That should be far enough. When I got home, I shut my bedroom door. The room still smelled faintly of the citrus perfume Sophia always wore. I took a deep breath, pulled open a drawer, and started clearing out everything that reminded me of her. First was the blue scarf. She had knitted it for me our freshman year of high school. We had just started dating, and she spent 2 weeks clumsily teaching herself how, pricking her fingers dozens of times. She just laughed as she pushed it into my hands. Caleb, you have to wear this every winter, okay? I ran my thumb over the crooked stitches, and, for a second, I could see her blushing face. Next was a stack of movie ticket stubs. From La La Land to the latest Marvel movie, we had seen them all together. Sophia always had a habit of hooking her pinky finger with mine in the dark theater, and we'd argue about the plot for hours after the credits rolled. Back then, I was the only one she saw. My hand froze when I touched a small, hard box. Inside was a silver keychain engraved with C and S. We had it made at a craft fair this summer after junior year, right after we promised we'd both go to Ohio State together. She had stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, Caleb, let's be together forever, okay? I really thought we would be, until Brandon Carter transferred to our school. The first time he stood in the doorway of our classroom, I noticed the way Sophia looked at him. She was usually cold to strangers, but she went out of her way to introduce herself. They became friends quickly, spending more and more time together. At first, Sophia would explain herself, worried I'd get the wrong idea. Brandon's just a new kid. I'm just helping him get settled. But soon, his name started popping up in every conversation. Brandon was a great basketball player. Brandon won the state math competition. Brandon. I tried to ignore it, until the team picnic. Brandon accidentally grabbed Sophia's water bottle and drank straight from it. Sophia paused for a moment, but she wasn't angry. Instead, she just smiled and said, "Slow down, you're going to choke." In that moment, my heart felt like it had been pricked by a needle, a sharp, sour ache. Sophia was a notorious germaphobe. She never let anyone touch her things, not even me. After that, Brandon's accidents became more frequent. At the homecoming game, he wrapped his arm around her waist, claiming he was keeping her from falling. On a rainy day, he insisted on draping his jacket over her shoulders, even though I was standing right there with an umbrella. He even made her late for my own birthday dinner because he needed her help at the library. Every time I brought it up, Sophia would just frown. "Caleb, don't overthink it. Brandon and I are just friends." But her eyes would never quite meet mine. The final straw should have been the senior prom after party. Brandon pulled Sophia up to dance in front of everyone. She knew I hated it when she danced with other guys, but she just smiled and put her hand on his shoulder. I was silent the entire drive home. Sophia was the one who broke the silence. "Can you stop being so possessive?" Brandon was just trying to liven up the party. Possessive? I had a laugh. If caring that your girlfriend was all over another guy was possessive, then I guess I had nothing left to say. I closed the box and tossed the keychain into the trash. Tucked under the corner of my desk was a photo from our freshman year camping trip. Under the hot sun, Sophia had snuck me an ice-cold water bottle. Our counselor saw and made her run laps as punishment. I ran with her. She was out of breath and laughing. "Caleb, you're such an idiot." Back then, her world revolved around me. Now, her world revolved around Brandon. I picked up the photo, tore it in half, and dropped the pieces into the trash can. After the last item was gone, the room felt empty. I leaned against the window, staring out at the distant city lights. My phone, which I turned back on, kept buzzing with notifications from the class group chat. I glanced at the screen, and my eyes were immediately assaulted by pictures of Sophia and Brandon. They were leaning against each other, their smiles sharp enough to cut. Now, that's a good-looking couple. Someone should have taken a hint and bowed out a long time ago. Brandon and Sophia are perfect for each other. I heard Brandon is going to OSU too, so they can stay together. I scrolled through the messages, my face blank, until I saw a text from one of Brandon's friends. "What does a nerd like Caleb have to compete with a guy like Brandon?" It was followed by a string of laughing emojis. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before turning my phone off. Finally, silence. The next morning, I was woken by the sound of cheerful voices downstairs. I opened my door to see my parents sitting in the living room with Mr. and Mrs. Miller. The coffee table was covered with fruit baskets and gift boxes. Sophia sat off to the side, her head down. "Son, come on down. The Millers came by to congratulate you," my mom called out with a smile. I froze on the stairs, a complicated feeling washing over me. They still didn't know I had changed my plans. "Caleb, we heard you got a perfect score on your SATs. That's incredible," Mr. Miller said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Sophia didn't do as well. Only got a 1450. Nowhere near you." My dad chuckled, trying to smooth things over. "Come on, Dave. Both kids did great." Mrs. Miller chimed in, her tone warm. "So, Caleb, have you officially accepted your offer?" she asked. "You two have been planning on going to Ohio State together for so long. It'll be nice for you to have each other." My expression soured. My mom, not noticing my mood, prompted me. "Caleb, Mrs. Miller asked you a question." I nodded. "Yeah, it's all set." Sophia looked up, a flash of relief in her eyes. Mr. Miller beamed. "Once these two get to OSU, they'll be inseparable. Maybe after graduation, our two families could start talking about." "Dad," Sophia interrupted, her cheeks flushing. I glanced at her, a cold smirk on my face. Mr. Miller continued enthusiastically. "Hey, Mark, what do you say we just get it all out in the open today? These two have such a great thing going. Once they graduate college, we should start planning the wedding." "Sir," I said calmly, "Sophia already has a boyfriend." The living room went completely silent. Mr. Miller's smile froze on his face, and Mrs. Miller's expression hardened. "What?" Mr. Miller frowned, turning to his daughter. "Sophia, what is he talking about?" Sophia's face went white. She gripped the fabric of her dress, her lips trembling as she struggled to find words. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshot from the class group chat. A picture of Brandon and Sophia, their hands intertwined. The caption read, "Here's to the future." The air in the room was thick with tension for a few seconds. Sophia finally snapped out of it, forcing a weak smile. "Dad, Mom, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, please don't listen to Caleb. He's making it up. That was just a joke." Everyone in the group chat was just messing around. My mom's brow furrowed. She clearly wasn't buying it. "A joke? Is that the kind of thing you joke about?" Mrs. Miller backed her up. "Exactly, Sophia. That's not appropriate behavior." Sophia bit her lip, her eyes darting around nervously. "It was just our classmates teasing us. Brandon and I, we're not like that." As she spoke, she shot me a glare filled with resentment. My dad, ever the peacemaker, stepped in. "Let's let the kids sort out their own business. We shouldn't get too worked up about it." He clapped his hands together. "Come on, let's eat before the food gets cold." The mood at the dinner table was a little better, but I could still see the Millers stealing worried glances at Sophia. She kept her head down, just pushing food around her plate, clearly a million miles away. After dinner, my dad put a hand on my shoulder. "Son, why don't you take Sophia for a walk? Help digest a bit." I wanted to say no, but the look in my dad's eyes told me to just do it. Outside the apartment building, the summer breeze was warm and heavy. Sophia walked a few steps ahead of me, then spun around, her face a mask of fury. "Caleb, what is your problem? Why would you say that in front of my parents?" I looked at her, my expression unreadable. Was I lying? Is the picture from the group chat fake? She was speechless for a moment, then her anger flared again. "It was a joke. Do you have any idea the trouble you almost got me into? If my dad believed you, he would have killed me." "A joke?" I scoffed. "Holding hands with Brandon is a joke? Announcing you're together is a joke." Sophia's face softened, and she changed her tactic. "Caleb, are you still mad about the other day? I already told you Brandon and I are just friends. You're being paranoid." I looked her straight in the eye. "Sophia, do you think I'm an idiot? That I'm that easy to fool? Is that what friends do? Do friends announce to everyone that they're a couple?" She was stunned, as if she never expected me to confront her so directly. After a moment, a cold smile spread across her face. "You've changed, Caleb. You never used to be this aggressive." I looked up at the sky. The stars were few and far between. "Yeah, I have. But people change, don't they?" We left it at that. When I got home, my parents were on the couch watching TV. "Son," my mom asked, "did you really finalize your university choice?" I nodded, my voice steady. "Mom, Dad, I'm going to the University of Washington." My dad paused the TV. He set the remote down quietly. My mother was silent for a moment before sighing. "We kind of figured." Her voice wasn't angry, just full of a quiet sadness. "You've had something on your mind for a while now. We knew something was wrong between you and Sophia." My dad put a hand on my shoulder. "Son, whatever you decide, we support you. The University of Washington is a great school. All that matters is that you're happy." A lump formed in my throat. I just nodded. They had known all along how much I was hurting, and they had given me the space to figure out on my own. Later that night, I was lying in bed, unable to sleep. My phone rang, displaying an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Caleb, what the hell is your problem?" It was Brandon, and he sounded furious. "Do you know that Sophia's been crying all night because of you?" I gripped my phone, saying nothing. "She's drunk right now, and she won't stop saying your name," he said, his tone dripping with provocation. A second later, a picture message came through. It was Sophia, passed out at a table, tear tracks glistening on her cheeks. I stared at the photo for a few seconds, then let out a cold laugh. "Brandon, who are you trying to kid?" There was a brief silence on the other end. Then his voice turned venomous. "Caleb, don't be an idiot. Sophia still has feelings for you. Do you really have to be this cold?" "Cold?" I laughed again. "Aren't you two together now? The whole class saw your sweet pictures." That was just... Before he could finish, I hung up and blocked his number. I didn't see Sophia for the rest of the summer. The class group chat, however, was constantly buzzing with pictures of her and Brandon on vacation. The beach, a mountain peak, an amusement park. They looked ecstatic in every photo. Below each post was a flood of congratulatory messages, as if everyone had collectively forgotten that she and I had ever been a thing. I scrolled through it all, feeling surprisingly numb, until one day, someone tagged me. "At Caleb Mitchell, why so quiet? You're not jealous, are you?" It was followed by a bunch of laughing emojis. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the Leave Group button. After a moment, I pressed it. Time flew by, and soon enough, it was time to leave for college. My parents insisted on driving me to the airport, fussing over me the whole way. "Call us when you get there, okay? Don't make us worry," my mom said, her eyes red. My dad just clapped me on the shoulder. "Study hard. Make yourself proud." I nodded, a warmth spreading through my chest. Just before boarding, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sophia. "I'm at the OSU freshman check-in. Don't be late." I froze for a second. She really still thought I was going to Ohio State. I stared at the screen, then typed out a reply. "Don't worry, I won't be." Then I blocked her number. As the plane took off, I watched the city shrink below me, feeling a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. Sophia stood at the Ohio State freshman check-in table, tapping her foot impatiently. The September sun was brutal, and beads of sweat formed on her forehead. She scanned the crowd for the 7th time, but there was still no sign of the familiar face she was looking for. "Where is Caleb?" she muttered, her brow furrowed. Brandon stood next to her, holding a large umbrella to shield her from the sun. His voice was gentle, but laced with a deliberate trace of pity. "Sophia, just give up. A guy like Caleb, he probably changed his mind at the last second. He doesn't even have the guts to face you." Sophia didn't answer, just bit her lip and stared at her phone. The message she'd sent showed as delivered, but there was no reply. Seeing his chance, Brandon sighed dramatically. "Honestly, I never thought Caleb was good enough for you. He's so sensitive and insecure. He couldn't even handle you having friends. And now he can't even show up on time. It just proves he doesn't care about you at all." Sophia's fingers paused. An uneasy feeling crept into her heart. She remembered all the good things about Caleb. How he would warm her hands in his during the winter. How he always held the umbrella over her in the rain. How he once drove all over town during her period just to find the brand of hot chocolate she liked. The memories were like tiny needles, pricking at her conscience and making her irritable. "Brandon, don't say that," she finally said, her tone sharp. Brandon looked taken aback. Then his expression shifted to one of hurt. "Sophia, I'm just worried about you. Look at you, waiting for him in this heat for hours, and he can't even bother to send text. If it were me, I would never let you go through this. You deserve better." Sophia ignored him. She opened her contacts and called Caleb's number directly. The automated voice on the other end was cold and robotic. "The number you have dialed is not available at this time." Her heart sank. Her hands started to tremble slightly. She tried again and again with the same result. A terrible feeling washed over her as she quickly opened her messaging app. She searched for his name, but it was gone. His profile picture, his name, vanished from her contacts list. He blocked me." Sophia whispered the words to herself, her face draining of all color. Brandon leaned over, feigning shock. "No way. Caleb's really going to be that cruel?" "Sophia, don't be sad. You don't need someone like that in your life. It's better that it's over." A wave of anxiety and frustration washed over Sophia, and she suddenly shoved him away. "Shut up." Ignoring Brandon's stunned expression, she frantically dialed Caleb's father. When he answered, his voice sounded tired. "Sophia, is everything okay?" "Mr. Mitchell, is Caleb. Has he left the house yet?" she asked, her voice trembling, still clinging to a sliver of hope. "I've been waiting for him at OSU for hours." "Did he oversleep?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Mr. Mitchell sighed. "Sophia, didn't Caleb tell you? He changed his mind. He's going to the University of Washington. His flight left this morning. He should be landing in Seattle soon." The words hit Sophia like a lightning strike. Her phone nearly slipped from her grasp. "What? The University of Washington," she stammered. "Why? Why would he change his mind? Why didn't he tell me?" Mr. Mitchell's voice was polite but distant. "Sophia, you kids have your own lives, and it's not our place to get involved. But Caleb was serious this time. I hope you can respect his decision." After she hung up, Sophia stood frozen, the world spinning around her. Her ears were ringing, and her mind was flooded with memories of her and Caleb. His gentle smile, all the little things he did for her, and the look of utter disappointment in his eyes the last time she saw him. "Sophia, are you okay?" Brandon reached out to steady her, but she slapped his hand away. "Get away from me," she screamed, her eyes red with tears. This is all your fault. If it weren't for your stupid games, Caleb would never have left. Brandon's expression hardened. How can you say that, Sophia? It was Caleb who was the jealous freak. He couldn't even trust you to have friends. What kind of relationship is that? Sophia froze, her mind filled with images of Caleb. She remembered the graduation party, how she had so casually taken Brandon's Coke, and the flicker of pain in Caleb's eyes. She remembered how after every fight, he was always the first to apologize, a gesture she had never appreciated. She even remembered him asking her once, his voice so quiet, "Sophia, can you please just stay away from Brandon?" And she had snapped back, "God, Caleb, you're so annoying." Regret washed over her like a tidal wave. She collapsed onto the curb, hugging her knees to her chest, and finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. But this time, there was no one there to gently pat her head and say, "Don't cry. I'm here." Life at the University of Washington was better than I could have imagined. I joined a robotics club and made a great group of friends who were just as passionate about it as I was. One of them was a girl named Chloe Davis. She was a computer science major, incredibly smart, and always seemed to find a reason to be around me. After club meetings, she was always coincidentally heading in the same direction and would walk back to the dorms with me. In the library, she would happen to find a seat across from me and slide a hot coffee my way. I knew she was interested, but I wasn't ready for another relationship yet. Whenever she got too close, I would politely create some distance or change the subject. Chloe never pushed it. She would just smile, a twinkle in her eye that seemed to say, "You can't run forever, Caleb." Leo would call me every now and then with updates from back home. He told me that Sophia and Brandon were together, but that it wasn't going well. Brandon, true to form, had started messing around with other girls as soon as he got to OSU. Sophia had gotten into several huge fights with him about it, and they had even been called into the RA's office. I listened, but I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a quiet indifference. During fall break, Chloe asked me to check out a new restaurant that had just opened downtown. I hesitated for a moment, but eventually agreed. She was so excited she sent me a string of emojis. No backing out, promise. I couldn't help but smile. The restaurant was beautiful, with warm lighting that made Chloe's eyes sparkle. She was wearing a light blue dress, her hair tied back loosely with a red ribbon. She looked softer, more relaxed than usual. "Caleb, you have to try this," she said, placing a piece of braised short rib on my plate. "It's their specialty." I was about to thank her when I saw a familiar figure walk through the door. Sophia. She was much thinner than I remembered, and her face was pale. She saw me at the same time, and her eyes widened. A second later, she was walking straight toward our table. "Caleb," she said, her voice shaking, "I finally found you." Chloe looked from me to her, a confused expression on her face. I put down my fork. "Long time no see, Sophia." Tears immediately welled up in her eyes. "Can I talk to you alone? Just for 5 minutes." Chloe, picking up on the tension, quickly stood up. "I'm just going to use the restroom. You two can talk." Sophia slid into Chloe's seat, her fingers twisting a napkin into shreds. "Caleb, I was wrong. I was so wrong," she whispered, tears splashing onto the table. "Brandon, he never really cared about me. He's with someone else now. He told me I was too annoying." I listened silently, feeling nothing but a distant pity. "So, what does that have to do with me? Can we start over?" she begged, grabbing my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. "I regret everything, Caleb. I've thought about you every single day for the past few months." I gently pulled my hand away. "Sophia, it's over." "No," she said, shaking her head frantically. "You still love me, right? You're just still angry with me." "I'm not angry anymore," I said with a small smile. "It's hard to be angry about something you no longer care about." The color drained from her face. Just then, Chloe returned, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Here," she said, handing one to me. She glanced at Sophia. "Do you want one?" Sophia stared daggers at her. She shot to her feet, her voice high and shrill. "Who are you?" Chloe blinked, then smiled. "I'm Caleb's classmate." She paused, then added, "And I'm also his girlfriend." I looked at her, surprised, but she just gave me a subtle wink. Sophia staggered back, as if she'd been physically struck. So you've already..." The tears were flowing freely now. "Caleb, you're cruel." With that, She turned and ran out of the restaurant. Chloe sat down and stuck out her tongue playfully. Sorry, I kind of improvised there. I shook my head, a real smile breaking across my face for the first time in a long time. No, it's okay. Thank you. Don't mention it, she said, resting her chin on her hands, her eyes shining. But, if you wanted to make it true, I wouldn't be opposed. The evening sun slanted through the window, catching the side of her face. I realized in that moment that her smile was warmer than any memory I had. I thought that would be the end of it. But the next day, Sophia showed up on campus. She was standing outside my lecture hall, looking pale and exhausted. She had dark circles under her eyes and had lost even more weight. The bright, confident girl I once knew was gone, replaced by this fragile, haunted-looking person. She was clutching a thermos. When she saw me, she forced a hopeful smile. Caleb, I made you some of your favorite chicken noodle soup. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying for days. I frowned, making no move to take the thermos. You don't have to do this, I said coldly. We're over. Her smile froze, and her hand trembled, but she stubbornly held the thermos out. I spent all night making it. Just try a little, please, you always used to say. Sophia, I interrupted. Don't talk about the past. It's over. Her eyes filled with tears again. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but she swallowed the words. Finally, she looked down. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow then. For the next 2 weeks, she was there every day. Sometimes she brought food, and other times she just stood at a distance, watching me with a desperate, pleading look in her eyes. People on campus started to notice. Some felt sorry for her. Others whispered that she was getting what she deserved. Finally, I had enough. I cornered her on a tree-lined path near the library. What do you want from me? I demanded, my voice sharp. She flinched but held her ground. Caleb, I'm really sorry. Can you give me one more chance? No, I said, my voice flat and final. The tears she had been holding back finally broke free. Then what do I have to do for you to forgive me? I'll change. I'll do anything. I just want to be with you. Sophia, I said, cutting her off. Give up. We can never go back. Her body swayed, as if all her strength had suddenly left her. She slowly sank to the ground, hugged her knees, and began to cry without making a sound. I didn't try to comfort her. I just turned around and walked away. After that day, she never came back. Later, Leo told me that Sophia had dropped out of college. She had started drinking heavily and was in a bad mental state. Brandon had dumped her long ago, and her family life had imploded. Her father had a stroke from the stress, and her mother was a wreck. Sophia was working at a bar, just drifting through life. Leo sighed over the phone. She got really drunk one night and told a mutual friend that she wonders all the time if she had treated you differently, if she would be the one standing by your side right now. I didn't have an answer for him. Time passed. After college, Chloe and I got married. The wedding day was perfect. The sun was shining, and the church was filled with our friends and family. Chloe looked radiant in her white dress, her smile lighting up the entire room. As I looked at her, I felt a sense of peace and happiness I had never known. As we were exchanging our rings, I glanced toward the back of the church. In the last pew, half hidden in the shadows, was a familiar figure. It was Sophia. She was so thin she looked like a skeleton, her face as white as a sheet. She was wearing a faded old dress, and her eyes were hollow as she stared at us. Our eyes met for a fleeting second. She looked away instantly, as if she'd been burned, then turned and hurried out of the church. I froze for a moment. Chloe squeezed my hand gently. What is it? She whispered. I shook my head, pulling myself back to the present, and smiled at her. Nothing. The heavy church doors swung shut, and Sophia's figure vanished into the sunlight. A year later, I was in my study organizing some files when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Leo. Caleb, did you hear? Sophia is dead. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, unsure how to respond. Another message came through a moment later. She went to Brandon's office. She grabbed him and jumped out the window with him. 19th floor. They both died instantly. It was a mess. My heart clenched. I thought of the last time I had seen her at my wedding. Thin, pale, a ghost of the girl she used to be. The light had already gone out of her eyes then. I never imagined that would be the last time I would ever see her. When did this happen? I typed slowly. Yesterday. It was on the news, but they didn't give a reason. The rumor is she had been trying to get back with Brandon for months, but he kept blowing her off. Yesterday, she stormed into his office. They argued, and then, that was it. Leo's texts felt heavy, even through the screen. I put down my phone and walked to the window. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and red, and the city skyline was beginning to blur into the twilight. A complicated emotion settled in my chest. Not quite sadness, but not relief either. Chloe came in with a cup of tea. She sensed my mood immediately. "What's wrong?" I showed her my phone. She read the messages and was silent for a long time. Then she took my hand. "Are you okay?" I nodded, then shook my head. "I don't know. I thought I was over it, but hearing this, it just feels awful." She rested her head on my shoulder, her presence a quiet comfort. We stood there together, watching the night fall. A few days later, I went to Sophia's grave alone. Her parents had chosen a quiet spot in the cemetery. The headstone was simple, with just her name and the dates of her life. No picture, no epitaph, as if her entire existence had been reduced to a whisper. I placed a bouquet of white lilies on the grave and just stood there, lost in thought. The Sophia in my memory was still the girl from high school, wearing a red dress, her smile as bright as the sun. The girl whose eyes used to see only me. "You came." A hoarse voice spoke from behind me. I turned to see Mrs. Miller standing a few feet away, also holding flowers. She looked 10 years older. Her hair was almost completely white, and her eyes were sunken. "Mrs. Miller." I didn't know what to say. She gave me a sad, tired smile. "In her last few months, Sophia talked about you a lot. She said that if she could do it all over again, she would never have treated you the way she did." I remained silent, a tightness in my throat. Mrs. Miller placed her flowers on the grave. "She wasn't well," she whispered. "She hadn't been well for a long time. Not since the day you left." Her voice trembled, but I was her mother, and I didn't see it. I didn't see how much pain she was really in. I didn't know how to comfort her. All I could manage was a quiet, "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "It's not your fault." Sophia was the one who couldn't let go. She turned and walked away, her back stooped like a wilting tree. When I got home, Chloe was in the kitchen making dinner. She saw me and immediately came over, wrapping me in a hug. "Did you go see her?" I nodded, burying my face in her shoulder. The soft scent of her perfume was grounding. "Caleb, you have to let the past go," she said softly. "You have me now. We have our future." I lifted my head and looked into her bright, clear eyes. I nodded. She was right. Life had to go on. Sophia had made her choices, and I had made mine. That night, I had a dream. In it, Sophia was wearing our old high school uniform, standing in a field of sunlight, smiling at me. "Be happy, Caleb," she said. Then she turned and ran, disappearing into the light. I woke up to a wet pillow. Chloe was sleeping soundly beside me, her breathing even and calm. I leaned over and kissed her forehead, then got up and walked to the window. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east. A new day was beginning. Sophia's death was like a stone dropped into a lake. It made ripples, but eventually the water grew still again. Life moved on, and her story was now frozen in time, sealed by a single desperate act.